Welcome in everybody to the third video of my 2024 Rookie Prospect Profile Series. Today we are taking a look at my Rookie 1.03 in one quarterback leagues and 1.06 in Superflex leagues, Washington wide receiver Rome Odunze, who could also make a case to be the wide receiver one in a few classes over this past decade, including potentially even last year over Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now, taking a look at Odunze's college career, he joined Washington in 2020, and since it was the pandemic season, Washington only played 4 games, and Odunze himself was behind Puka Nacua and Cade Otton in this offense, so just kind of a lost freshman season for Rome Odunze. In 2021, though, Odunze's usage spiked to being the team's wide receiver one as a sophomore after Puka Nacua transferred to BYU, and he did haul in 41 passes for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, which I know that doesn't sound like great production, but Washington's offense that year was really bad, and Odunze accounted for over 20% of that offense's production. In 2022, his numbers spiked again with the addition of Michael Penix and a new coaching staff, hauling in 75 passes for over 1,100 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. And even though people anticipated Odunze to declare after that season, he decided to stay for his senior year in 2023, which I think definitely paid off, to the tune of 92 receptions for over 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns. Led the entire NCAA in receiving yards and was 6th in the NCAA in both receptions and touchdowns. Just a monster season to solidify himself as a top prospect in this class and a potential top 10 pick in the NFL draft. So let's dive into the analytics, and if you've watched these videos before, you are probably familiar with my marker system, which is simply a series of checkboxes or baselines that I want players to hit based on what previously successful NFL receivers had coming out of college. At the wide receiver position, I have 16 markers that I'm checking for various production and athleticism metrics, with a final adjustment at the end based on draft capital. And currently, Rome Odunze is grading out with 9 total markers hit, which is tied for second in this class behind Malik Nabers. And then when he's drafted in the first round, that is going to give him 10 markers total, which puts him in a tier of past first round prospects like Treylon Burks, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Dez Bryant, Demaryius Thomas, and Roddy White. The only markers that he misses on are first yards per team pass attempt and fantasy points per game, as like I said, his freshman COVID season was basically lost. And then he barely misses on last yard per team pass attempt at 2.85. I'm looking for 3. Best market share of yards at 32%. I'm looking for 35%. And his BMI is sitting at 26.5. I'm looking for 27. So he is just barely missing on 3 more markers that could have propelled his profile up even higher to enter that CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Allen Robinson tier of prospects. He is that close to being an almost otherworldly player coming out of college. And then you turn on the tape and you immediately notice that he has the size, weight, and speed to be a legitimate alpha wide receiver one at the next level. He is a really strong route runner, a very capable separator. He has incredible burst in short distances, which you can also see by his second best shuttle time in the class at the combine. And he was also tied for 4th in the class in the 10-yard split on his 40-yard dash. So he moves really well over short distances, especially for his size, which just adds to his route running ability. But his biggest talent, or talents I should say, are contested catches, body positioning, and incredible body control. Like, if you love George Pickens because of his insane catches, you will love Rome Odunze as well. He is incredible at contorting his body to make some amazing catches on the sideline or in the end zone, and his ability to just go up and get it and turn 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls or even 90-10 balls. That's what's gonna make him a quarterback's best friend at the next level, to just be able to throw it up to him. He's gonna go up and get it and make a play and move the chains. Now, I will say he definitely isn't as refined of a player as Marvin Harrison Jr. or even Malik Nabers to an extent. He is going to need some fine tuning to become that elite alpha wide receiver at the next level, like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Devontae Adams that just dominates everyone that lines up across from him, doesn't matter who it is. But he does have all the tools to be able to do that. He just needs a little bit of a fine tuning and coaching to be able to get to that point. I think Amari Cooper's career is kind of median, or maybe a little bit of above and a median outcome for Rome Odunze as an immediate wide receiver 1 or 1A on an offense that maybe doesn't have the best quarterback, but he'll produce no matter what. I think his ceiling comparisons are somewhere between a Devontae Adams and a Dez Bryant. I think he has all of the fluidity and route running of a Devontae Adams to be able to be open no matter what and against whoever on the opposite side, but he also offers that extra physicality that Dez Bryant had to win those 50-50 balls at the catch point. Mike Evans does that really well too, as a more recent example of a type of player that Rome Odunze could become in the future. Lance Zierlein actually gave him a Larry Fitzgerald comparison, so if you put faith in one of the best film analysts on the planet, that is some high praise as well from Lance Zierlein. The only piece of this puzzle that is still left is just landing spot, which I've honestly been hoping that he lands with the New York Giants at 6 overall, which I know might sound gross to some of you, but at least in New York, he would be the for sure, without a doubt, alpha wide receiver 1 in that offense, and then we can figure out the quarterback situation later. And I mean, to be honest, Daniel Jones isn't a completely terrible quarterback. In 2021, when he was completely healthy, if you combine Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins' stats, that's 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns on 80 receptions. That's almost exactly what Devonta Smith did last year as the fantasy wide receiver 16, and just a little under what Nico Collins did at the wide receiver 11. I know it's not as easy as just combining players, but there is a lot of opportunity still in New York with Daniel Jones at quarterback for him to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I think the problem really comes if he were to fall outside the top 6. Tennessee and Chicago seem to be out of play now with their recent moves at wide receiver, so the Falcons or the Jets could pull the trigger as a wide receiver 2 or even 1B with good quarterbacks there. I'm not sure Odunze would hit his true ceiling playing with Drake London or Garrett Wilson, but they are not overall bad landing spots. An actual bad landing spot to me would be the Denver Broncos with their really bad quarterback situation, so please just miss me with that one.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
And then we get to the Vegas Raiders, a landing spot that I think makes a ton of sense from a dynasty standpoint, so that he would be the wide receiver waiting in the wings of Davante Adams, where he can learn from Davante Adams, get introduced into the NFL nicely as the wide receiver 2 across from him, but then whenever Adams leaves or he retires, Odunze could take over to be the alpha for the foreseeable future for the Raiders. Basically, almost exactly what happened to Davante Adams behind Jordy Nelson in Green Bay. So I love the Vegas Raiders if he were to fall out of the top 10, with a backup option being the Jacksonville Jaguars, who do need a good outside receiver now that Calvin Ridley has left. So Odunze, I think, makes a lot of sense there too, paired with Trevor Lawrence in a very solid offense. I just don't think that he falls all the way to 17, but I mean, he might, or they could trade up for him. You never really know. Overall, though, I don't see a situation where Odunze really moves up or down my rankings post-draft. I think he's pretty firmly entrenched at 1.03 in one quarterback leagues and 1.06 in superflex leagues. I don't see a world where he bumps Nabers or Marvin Harrison Jr. at the wide receiver position. I don't see a world where I would take him over Jaden Daniels or Drake May in superflex, provided both of them are top 10 picks. And I don't see a world where I'm drafting Odunze behind Brock Bowers, unless it's at a minimum a 1.75 tight end premium league. I think Odunze is going to be a really good receiver at the NFL level and for fantasy football, so I'm very excited to be able to draft him in any rookie drafts that I can, especially because he does have that ceiling of an elite top 5 fantasy receiver in the right situation and the right offense. Rome Odunze might literally be the best rookie wide receiver 3 in a class of all time, and you should be very excited to be able to draft him in your rookie drafts.